The guest presented a doll that belonged to her grandmother, though unsure of its origin. The appraiser identified it as an early American oil-painted cloth doll dating back to approximately 1840 to 1860. American oil-painted cloth dolls were early dolls made in the United States during the mid-19th century. They typically had cloth bodies and heads painted with oil-based pigments to mimic human features. Handmade dolls like these were common playthings for children in the 1800s. They are considered collectibles today due to their historical significance and craftsmanship. The guest expressed surprise, indicating that the valuation exceeded their expectations.
Value this at $2,500 to $3,500.
Wow.
The guest brought in a Wedgwood game pie dish, passed down through her husband's family for nearly 5 decades. While Wedgwood, along with other Victorian potters, created game pie dishes, Victorians often preferred their game pie without the traditional pastry crust.
The other item my husband's brother has in Tucson.
Well, it is very special in that it's so unusual.
To cater to this preference, potters designed dishes that resembled the look and texture of pastry. Wedgwood excelled in this art form in the early 19th century.
Pie dishes, eating game pie, stewed game or rabbit or something like that.
Its detachable border transforms a simple dish into an elaborate centerpiece. Victorian Wedgwood is known for clear markings, especially for majolica ware like this. Impressed Wedgwood mark on the accompanying code, a dating system used throughout the Victorian era. The Q on the end signifies the year of manufacture, which translates to 1862 in this case. Today, this magnificent piece would fetch a remarkable $1,200 to $1,400 at auction. This guest presents a cast-iron goat cart passed down from her grandmother. Dating back to the 1880s or 1890s, this goat cart reflects a bygone era. Unlike the wildly popular fire engines with galloping horses that dominated children's toys of the time.
Little wagon or a cart and let it pull around the kids. So this is what this was representing.
Made by Harris, a company not known for mass production, the appraiser points out that a key feature missing from this piece. That missing figure, likely a small cast-iron lady, creates a gap in the toy's completeness.
Wish we could find that figure, because that has a great deal to do with the value of this particular piece.
Paintwork remains in pristine condition, adding to its overall appeal. Even without the figure, this unique piece is estimated to fetch a remarkable.
As it sits right now, at auction this would bring $2,500 to $3,500.
This Northern Pacific travel poster features Immigrant Peak in Paradise Valley, serving as an advertisement for the gateway to Yellowstone Park. Our guest, originally from New York City, received this poster as a gift from their father, appreciating the majestic view of the Montana Rockies, despite it being a familiar sight. Created early in the 1930s by artist Gustav Krollman for the Northern Pacific Railroad, the poster showcases the artist's talent and captures the Montana landscape in
beautifully rendering the landscape into sort of summery pastel blues and greens and lavenders.
Krollman, of Austrian descent, lived in Minneapolis and taught art at the Minneapolis Institute of Art.
Living in Minneapolis, and that he taught art at the Minneapolis Institute of Art.
This poster is one of at least 5 Krollman created for the Northern Pacific Railroad, with 3 being Montana-specific, including this piece and others featuring the North Coast Limited and the Mission Range. These posters were designed to promote travel on the railroad, printed in St. Paul, Minnesota, and distributed nationwide to attract travelers with the beauty of Montana. At auction, this unframed and unlined poster could fetch between
This is what we technically refer to as pretty darn good.
That's excellent.
Today's episode features a painting of a nude female. It was given to our guest by her mother. It's a painting by a Chinese-French artist named Cheng-Yu Sanyu. Sanyu was renowned for his depictions of flowers, birds, landscapes, and nudes.
And learn how to draw, paint, and do calligraphy. And in 1921, he went to France.
Evident in this piece is Sanyu's blend of traditional Chinese ink painting techniques with Western influence. along with the fluidity associated with his paintings.
With the model
And
right
in
front of him,
France.
while he was in France. And he
This ink on paper painting exhibits red pigmentation watercolor. A piece of this quality, harmonizing traditional Chinese brushwork with Western artistic sensibilities, would sell for
an estimate for this drawing would be $50,000 to $75,000.
Wow. Okay, great. That's great.
Guest brought in an exceptionally rare guitar. This guitar is special. It's a rare Bartles prototype from the 1960s. It's fretless, which makes it unique, and only one was made by Bartles.
So 1964 to 68, maybe during that period. And then the story goes that
Ray, the owner, received it from George Harrison after a recording session, who, impressed by Ray's playing, gifted it to him. The icing on the cake is a photo of George Harrison with the guitar.
Just down here on the left-hand side is the guitar in question.
The guitar's journey is as fascinating as its sound. From the hands of rock legends to Ray's possession, it has a rich history. To collectors, it's rare. To Beatles fans, it's legendary. Now, let's talk about its value, which is between
If it made between £300,000 and £400,000.
A lady brought a whiskey chest belonging to her husband's great-grandfather, Richard W. Manson. The guest shared details about how Richard served in the Civil War. The whiskey chest, also known as a bottle case, was likely acquired by Manson 30 to 50 years prior, making it a typical piece of Southern furniture. Crafted from walnut, with southern white pine serving as the secondary wood, suggesting its origins in Virginia. The chest showcased fine cabinet-making craftsmanship, including intricate dovetails. The appraiser pointed out that 3 wooden escutcheons were replaced over time. However, the chest's small size and southern origin would be highly desirable among collectors. Given the strong provenance, the estimated value the item could fetch was
value. I would think in an auction it would probably bring somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 to $6,000.
The guest presented a lovely vase inherited from her mother. She acquired it for just 10 cents from her workplace at Morimura Brothers Company. This item was identified as a Noritake china piece, typically imported by Morimura Brothers. The appraiser shared details about the Noritake Company. It was formed in the 19th century and renowned for its affordable products with pretty designs. After World War II, the company was mostly known for making dinner services and decorative objects. This particular piece bore a mark at the bottom saying Noritake Hand Painted Japan. Moreover, it featured an artist's signature, adding to its uniqueness. Considering the size and exquisite painting, it was estimated to be around
With such great painting and such a big size, I would estimate it to be worth between $2,000 and $3,000.
No kidding.
Possibly even more. It's one of the best that I have.
This guest brings in a pair of unassuming pottery pieces, each purchased for a mere 25 cents. These pots hail from San Ildefonso Pueblo in New Mexico, likely crafted in the late 1920s or early 1930s. Both pieces reflect the Art Deco aesthetic of that period.
Which would be the late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
But
One piece boasts the signature Maria and Julian, signifying the renowned pottery duo Maria and Julian Martinez.
Specific time in the 20s and up to the very early 30s. Julian.
The other pot, though unsigned, showcases the skilled hand of another artisan. This unsigned piece would likely fetch around $20 at auction, while the signed Maria and Julian's pottery takes center stage. The appraiser estimates its value to be,
If this pot came up at auction, it would be probably a grand total of $20.
Okay.
we are presented with needlework done by young girls, a schoolgirl sampler. This piece was a family heirloom passed down to our guest. It was originally done by Margaretta Ross, who happens to be our guest forebear. Ross had attended the Sarah McCardle School in Lancaster County.
In Lancaster County, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay, it's in Lancaster.
So as it was typical, the mistress of the school would draw the design.
McCardle's school was a finishing school, and the place Ross had made this piece. The designs implemented on the sampler was given by the mistress of the school.
When someone came calling, it was nice to have that on the wall. It made quite a statement.
The fluffy nature of this item was possible because of the silk material used. This sampler provides us with insight into the lives and educations of young girls in earlier centuries and would be auctioned at.
I feel that pre-sale auction estimate on this sampler would be $7,000 to $10,000.
Really?
Yeah.
This painting had been passed down through the Guest family from their great-grandfather, who resided in the Adirondacks area of New York State. According to the appraiser, the painting was created by Jasper Crosby, whom the great-grandfather had met in the Adirondacks and commissioned to make the painting.
For their visit together.
And you have this terrific letter.
Yes.
The letter provided insight into Crosby's sentiment regarding the artwork, describing it as an impression or reminiscence of Lake George in the autumn. The appraiser highlighted the artist's techniques in the painting's original state, suggesting that it had likely never been on the market or known to scholars.
Hudson River School is a well-known type of American painting. It's a well-known term. It's, in fact, a little bit of a misnomer.
Based on its historical value and condition, the appraiser estimated its insurance value at around
Honest for you, I would probably be thinking of perhaps $150,000.
Get ready to uncover the intriguing artifacts linked to our guest father, a dentist with a remarkable story. Imagine a dentist imprisoned in Colditz, the legendary World War II camp captured amidst the chaos of the Battle of Crete in 1941. A chilling quote from his book says,
That's a quote about your dad, isn't it?
It is.
Was he really like that?
Not at all, but he was a dentist.
As a member of the Army Medical Corps, escaping wasn't his responsibility. Nevertheless, he still played a role in escape attempts. There was even a tunnel beneath his dental chair, and he contributed in constructing the renowned Colditz escape glider. Tins like these were repurposed for digging escape tunnels, like the Clemton, an iconic piece of prisoner equipment. These items take us back to the history of the castle. Despite their historical value, it's difficult to determine their price.
I think a collector would quite happily pay £500 for this collection. Easily.
Well, I wasn't planning to sell them.
The guest brought a hide-covered trunk, which was a Revolutionary War period piece in good condition. It belonged to John Armstrong, who was part of the 1st United States Army. He also accompanied George Washington when he was crossing the Delaware River. The trunk contained a Society of Cincinnati medal worn by him during the Revolution. It also contained a wallet with Continental embossed on it, which was very rare. A powder horn with a hide covering and a small pocket pistol belonging to John Armstrong was also included in the collection. The guest, also a descendant of Armstrong, got pleasantly surprised as the appraiser estimated the value of his collection to be
This is $25,000 to $35,000 worth of material.
The guest father obtained this painting from the Edeljorg family, neighbors with an extensive American Indian art collection. The painting, initially believed to be Henry Farney, was actually by Cincinnati artist John Hauser. Hauser, renowned for his grand paintings, studied in Munich and Dusseldorf, and mostly painted in gouache. This painting, possibly depicting the Sioux tribe, is dated around 1909.
Like oil paint, which takes a long time to dry. He worked a lot in gouache, as many of the other artists who did this kind of subject did. We can see his signature down here, and unfortunately, because
the painting also had Hauser's signature in the corner. To the guest's astonishment, the appraiser estimated the auction value of this painting to be
a pleasant surprise, but at auction I would expect this to comfortably reach between $12,000 and $18,000.
Oh my God.
The guest found this item in the mud during a rainy night while running. What a dramatic discovery.
Valentino, 1925. It is quite common for people at the time in Hollywood to have gifts made to give people.
Upon examination by the appraiser, it was revealed to be inscribed with the words, "To Rudy from Rudolph Valentino, 1925. The appraiser explained that during Hollywood's early years, it was customary for individuals to have gifts made for distribution among cast and crew members. The item was confirmed to be sterling silver, likely ordered in bulk for gifting purposes, rather than something Valentino wore personally. Its association with Rudolph Valentino lent it considerable value, with an estimated auction price ranging between...
At auction, we'd put an estimate of between $2,000 to $3,000 on it.
Okay.
The Guest family heirloom comprised 2 pots passed down from their grandmother. The appraisers identified them as Hopi pottery, representing 2 generations of craftsmanship. One bowl, crafted around 1890 to 1900 in Hanno Hopi, features designs resembling bird feather wings. The appraiser highlighted the significance of birds in Pueblo culture.
Beg the heavens, rain. So this pot, close to you, was made for trade to non-natives.
The other pot was from the Palaka ware period, spanning from the late 1700s to around 1900. This particular piece was thicker and cruder, with unusual rain indications in its design. The pots were made for native use, possibly for holding water, and showed signs of wear. Given the rare and intriguing designs, the appraiser suggested a value for the pieces of...
I would value this at around $3,500.
The Guest brought in a pair of bronze sculptures passed down from their mother. The sculptures had belonged to a Baltimore socialite named Eleanor Duval, who often boarded at the Guest mother's farm in Maine. The sculptures are the works of Edward Burge, a Baltimore-born sculptor known for his traditional style in contrast to the more avant-garde movements of the early 20th century. This one is a reduction of Burge's famous fountain piece called Wildflower. Burge created these sculptures in various sizes, but with this being the smallest. Interestingly, the sculpture is not only signed by Burge, but also bore the mark of the Roman Bronze Works Foundry, which produced cast of Burge's work for many years. The quality of the bronze casting and the beautiful patina that had developed on the surface is incredible. This one, however, was also a well-made bronze figure with a different patina. The foundry mark on this piece indicates that it was cast by the Zappo Foundry in New York. In terms of value, the estimated value of the Wildflower reduction is between...
Wildflower at auction would probably bring between $2,000 and $3,000.
While the nude figure could bring in...
Beautifully cast bronze, I would think at auction would probably bring $3,000, $4,000.
Oh, no.
Our Guest shares a remarkable story from 1975 when Colonel Sanders, the founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken, purchased their parents' home, and they built a house right next to him. For the last 5 years of his life, the Guest lived next to Colonel Sanders, who before moving into the Guest parents' home, stayed in their basement with his wife, Claudia Sanders, for 6 months. Colonel Sanders would often join the Guest family for dinner or watch TV before retiring to the...
So they had their own kitchen and everything downstairs, and he would come in the front door and...
Our Guest obtained Colonel Sanders' white suit as a high school senior for a Halloween costume party.
If I could borrow one of his suits, he said, absolutely, I'll be glad to loan you one. So I...
Impressed by the Guest costume, Colonel Sanders offered to have his chauffeur drive the Guest to high school in his limousine and later gifted the suit to the Guest as a memento. Despite founding KFC and franchising it in 1952, Colonel Sanders' favorite food was White Castles, and he would visit KFC stores to taste the chicken to ensure quality. The white suit, tailored for Colonel Sanders by Warren Kluke, includes the iconic black string tie and a canvas reprint signed by Colonel Sanders himself, valued at $300 to $500 as an autograph. At auction, the suit could fetch between...
One of his white suits came up with the shirt, and it's sold for charity for $80,000.
Oh, my gosh.
This 1971 Rickenbacker guitar belongs to the Guest husband who got it back in high school in 1977. It was made by Adolf Rickenbacker, who was responsible for inventing and producing one of the first electric guitars, which was a Hawaiian. This is the style 331, made in 1971. And what's very interesting about it is that it's called the light show guitar. One amazing thing about it is this sort of great light mechanism inside that when you play it, it lights up. Now, what is rare about this is that the generator that runs these lights is still very effective. It's an incredible piece that has great historical significance. For a guitar acquired for $250 in an auction, this beautiful guitar would sell for
So famous.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Insurance value on this guitar, $20,000.
However, a recent appraisal got this piece going for $15,000. The speaker inherited a stunning jewelry set with a rich history. It was passed down from their parents' old friend Dorothy, whose husband Joel acquired it likely in the 1920s or 1930s through his connections at his gangster-frequented club. The complete set, crafted from 18-karat yellow gold, boasts a beautiful array of features. Over 200 carats of Brazilian amethyst adorn the pieces, their rich purple hue accentuated by delicate seed pearls and bordering made of meticulously hand-twisted wire. This same intricate wirework is seen throughout the set, on the joining links of the necklace, the bracelet, and even earrings. One detail on the ring which is interesting is the presence of stamped leaves, a technique recognized from their own family's history in jewelry making. It suggested the set was likely American-made, possibly even from New York City. This detail, along with the set's overall quality and completeness, places it at an estimate value of between
New York. I would say that at auction this would be $4,000 to $6,000.
Really?
Really.
The guest presented Revolutionary War papers found in his grandmother's old trunk. It included muster rolls from Cornwallis's British Army, list of captured goods from the rebels, and requisitions for cannons and small arms. The documents belonged to Colonel George Ray of the Royal Regiment of Artillery. Ray was in charge of all the issuing of supplies and receiving of supplies to the entire British regiment. One document in the collection, dated April 3, 1775, was particularly significant. The appraiser mentioned another document receiving cannons captured from the rebels at the Battle of Camden. They noted that the value could increase if the letters were transcribed and further researched. Given the impeccable historical significance, the collection was estimated to be around,
I would say at auction, these might bring in the $5,000 to $7,000 range. Although they could do more if some of the letters were transcribed.
The guest came across this hidden treasure while sorting through her mother-in-law's belongings, a first edition of Walt Whitman's Memoranda of the War. The book itself held historical significance, chronicling Whitman's observations and experience during the American Civil War. It was published in Camden in 1875 to 1876, but what truly sent its value soaring was the inscription. The inscription, dating back to 1875, addressed the book to a fireman relative of the speaker's husband, hinting at a personal connection between the poet and the family. Despite not being the absolute first printing, the inscription from Walt Whitman himself significantly inflated the book's worth. The estimated value is?
Inscription just adds to it. Retail. It would be more a $10,000 to $12,000 book.
Really?
This is a World War I issued field surgical kit. It is absolutely incredible with all the equipment still very intact. It is incredibly rare and has never been seen before. Taking account its rarity, this piece would sell for
Expect to see this bring a price between $2,000 and $3,000.
Wow.
The guest brought in a treasured childhood possession, a Lionel train set designed specifically for girls. The train set is imbued with the memories of her childhood playtime and, as such, held more than just monetary value. This particular set boasted pastel colors, a novelty introduced by Lionel in the years following World War II as a way to expand their market. The marketing strategy wasn't particularly successful, making this train set a rare find today. In the past, a pristine set in its original box could command a hefty price tag of $10,000. In the current market, the train set has a value of...
Now it's down to around $2,000 to $3,000.
The guest unassumingly placed a beautiful four-masted pond yacht on the appraisal table, sharing that he had purchased it at an estate auction for a mere $175. Based on its design and materials, the yacht has a fascinating story behind it. While the initial guess placed on the yacht's creation in the 1920s, some key details like the teak and bamboo used in its construction pointed to a different origin story. The yacht was likely not crafted by an American sailor, but rather by a merchant seaman who had traveled to the seas of Asia sometime around the turn of the 20th century. During this long voyage, the sailors would have had ample time and materials to meticulously carve this beautiful piece. Sailors were known for creating such artistic keepsakes during their travels, adding to the rich tradition of scrimshaw and other nautical crafts. On carefully inspecting the piece, noting its good condition, the presence of the original sails, and the rigging that remained intact, the estimated value at auction would be
A little bit more, but your $175 actually should be worth an investment of about $5,000 to $7,000.
Thank you.
These exquisite glass pieces are attributed to the renowned French artist Émile Gallet. Acquired by the guest after their mother's stepfather passed away in 1975, these pieces hold sentimental value. Our guest has researched Gallet, noting his significance in French Art Nouveau.
Gallet was to French glass what Louis Comfort Tiffany was to American. He was probably the best known of the French Art Nouveau artists.
Although not typical Gallet pieces known for cameo and overlay work, these are early creations.
Overlay pieces where it's one color over another and then they carved it away. These pieces are both early.
The first piece is a Y form, reminiscent of ancient Chinese bronze, with intricate Chinese engravings and Gallet's signature E. Gallet Nancy engraved on the bottom. Gallet's technique involved mixing mottled colored glass and oxides, visible in the veining throughout the glass, with a martelé back, meaning hammered in French, showcasing intricate borders and applique details. The second piece features a dragonfly and Egyptian motifs, indicative of the neoclassic revival in the early 1900s.
You have an Egyptian motif. Now, in the early 1900s, you had
with similar modded glass, gilding, and enamel colors. The appraiser values the Y-shaped piece at approximately,
I would put a value of $25,000 on.
What? Oh my God.
Today's episode presents jewelry from Hungary. Our guest inherited this jewelry from her mother. The jewelry was taken by her mother's family while fleeing Hungary during World War II. At the top of the jewelry box is a photo of her mother's family.
That was in Hungary. That's my grandmother, grandfather, my mother, and her 3 brothers.
There are several pieces of jewelry in the jewelry box, which include an ivory bead made with genuine ivory, a set of Victorian-era jewelry, and a
70s.
Yeah.
And the other piece that we'd focus on is this large crescent pin.
A large crescent pin adorned with precious gemstones.
In the center. But this one has a fitting in the back, and there's a thumb screw here.
This collection of Hungarian jewelry, each with its own unique features and story, would collectively fetch a price of
And diamond earrings and the ring, there's another $2,500 in that set.
Great.
The appraiser is intrigued by the guest item, an original printing block for Star Wars advertisements. Our guest acquired the printing block from an online auction while searching for unique items related to movies. The printing block was used by 20th Century Fox in 1976 to create advertisements for the upcoming release of Star Wars.
I was interested in this not only because it was the piece that made those advertisements, but
The advertisement promotes the movie's release with Dolby encoded prints in 70mm 6-track stereo in selected theaters, and in 35mm stereo optical nationally. The appraiser expresses enthusiasm for the item, highlighting its significance among Star Wars collectibles. Despite the guest purchasing it for around $20, the appraiser estimates its auction value to be in the range of
I'm going to say $300 to $400 range, and that's being extremely conservative at auction.
Our guest presents a sketch by Frederick Church, a renowned artist who married their great-aunt and lived in Alana, New York. The sketch was given to the guest's mother by their great-aunt during a visit to Alana when the guest was a child. Our guest believes the sketch depicts a scene from Persia, as Church traveled extensively in the Mediterranean in the 1800s. The appraiser notes that Alana, Church's estate, is inspired by Persian architecture, and Church visited Europe and the Middle East in 1867, likely when he painted the sketch. The sketch is oil on paperboard, showcasing Church's meticulous style, typical of his work. Despite the unusual subject matter for Church, the appraiser and colleagues estimate the sketch's value at auction to be between
We think that at auction, a conservative estimate would be $100,000 to $150,000.
Wow.
The guest brought a three-piece furniture set made by the Wakefield Rattan Company in Boston, Massachusetts. The set was purchased for $300 and is in need of repair, with damage to one of the chairs. The original labels were found underneath the chairs, confirming its authenticity and age. The pieces dated back to the post-Civil War era, likely the 1870s or 1880s. The furniture had retained its original color, which was rare and highly appealing to collectors. The intricate stick and ball work, as well as the decorative aprons, showcased exceptional craftsmanship. Despite some damage, due to the furniture's historical significance, the appraiser estimated its retail to be,
I would say a $5,000 retail price would not be out of the question.
Today's episode features a bronze lamp, an old piece made in 1900 by the Handel Company.
And we know that because it's triple signed. The brass rim at the top is signed, the shade is signed, and on the bottom under the felt is also signed. What's great about this piece
was a family heirloom passed down to our guest. The beautiful hexagonal shade on this lamp perfectly complements its unique shape. Despite being an older piece, it's still in excellent condition. The item has a mitered chip on the side, yet still retains its unique value and is estimated to be worth
that much. I would estimate this at auction at $1,500 to $2,000.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful.
The guest received a lithograph and a bottle of whiskey as a retirement gift from a friend. The appraiser revealed that the lithograph was actually an engraving from the 1870 Tobacco Whiskey Pork Record newspaper. The engraving was an advertisement for ST Suits whiskey brand, which no longer exists.
Very dear friend, as a retirement gift. It's something I've admired on his wall.
Soot was a whiskey baron who built a school for black children on his land in Maryland. The engraving was a rare and valuable item, with only one other known copy in the Smithsonian. The appraiser also noted that the whiskey collectibles are currently in high demand. The appraiser estimates the value of the earthenware jug and the engraving to be,
So at best, I feel I can give you a conservative value on this. I think at auction it would sell for between $3,000 and $4,000.
Wow.
Here we have a collection of medals belonging to the guest grandfather, a highly decorated soldier in the Sudanese army. The medals include a military MBE awarded by Queen Elizabeth II, a set of medals typical for someone who fought in North Africa during World War II, and two distinctive Sudanese medals. The guest grandfather served in the Sudanese Defense Force, established in 1925 and working alongside the British Army.
Bottom underneath all the tissue paper, you had this one.
Yes.
A unique medal tucked away beneath tissue paper, the George Cross. The George Cross is the equivalent to the Victoria Cross for acts of bravery not in the face of the enemy.
Unions that they have.
George Cross, Victoria Cross Association. Well,
the guest confirms his grandfather wore the medal with pride and even met Queen Elizabeth II at reunions. This amazing collection estimated a combined value of,
I think you're looking at £20,000.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's very good.
This segment from Eltham Palace features Mary Turner, a former puppet maker for Jerry Anderson Productions. These puppets are from Jerry Anderson shows like Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet. Turner explains that she joined Anderson's company after their early programs, initially worked on the puppets before moving into puppet making. She credits Sylvia Anderson, Jerry's wife, with providing direction for the character designs, though puppet makers also had creative input. These puppets were often discarded after a production's completion. Turner managed to hold on to several, which are now considered valuable collector's items. The total collection is estimated to be worth around £80,000.
The highest price that she realised was £38,000.
Was it?
My feeling
Yes.
is that she might get a little bit more.
The guest brought a doll that was part of his mother's collection. The doll was made by the French company Jumeau around 1880 to 1890. Jumeau was a prolific doll company that produced many different types of dolls. This specific doll had classic features, including large, expressive eyes and heavy eyebrows. The doll's clothes were not original and were in poor condition. The wig was too old, but not the original, which would have been blonde and made of mohair. The appraiser estimated the doll's value at
This doll would retail from $3,000 to $3,500.
Wow.
Collections from baseball are what our guest brought today. The collections consist of 1944 uniforms from the Brooklyn Dodgers. The uniform belonged to Howie Schultz and Ray Hayworth. Schultz played as a first baseman for the Dodgers from 1943 to 1947, while Hayworth was a catcher for the Dodgers team in 1944 to 1945. The uniforms are white satin, which is an extremely rare find.
We have the Hayworth top there, and we have Schultz, his teammate. Usually you see them in blue.
This piece from one of the most dominant baseball teams ever, coupled with its rarity, will go for
In white satin. You have at auction, this would sell for $5,000.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yes.